Hey guys, it's Miss Clark. I'm here today to do the chapters 5 and 6 of Sideways Stories from Wayside School. And this is designated for May 21st, 2020. So let's get started. All right, so we're going to be working on pages 23 through 31 in this book, as you can see. All right, so let's jump to chapter 5. This one's about Todd. So, number 1, why does Todd try to ignore the children in his class? Number 2, what happens after Miss Jules circles Todd's name on the board each day? Number 3, why do robbers come into the school? And then 4, have you ever felt like Todd? Explain. So remember, you're going to also need this workbook. It's the literature guide, so you're going to need this to help you. So, this is where the questions are. Now, I'm going to read it out loud to you. You're welcome to mark in your book if you like, but if you don't want to, that's fine. All right, chapter 5, Todd. All of the children in Mrs. Jules' class, except Todd, were talking and carrying on. Todd was thinking. Todd always thought before he spoke. When he got an idea, his eyes lit up. Todd finished thinking and began to speak. But before he said 2 words, Miss Jules called him. Todd, she said, you know better than to talk in class. You must learn to work quietly, like the other children. She wrote his name on the blackboard under the word discipline. Todd looked around in amazement. All of the other children, who had been talking and screaming and fighting only seconds earlier, were quietly working in their workbooks. Todd scratched his head. A child was given 3 chances in Mrs. Jules' class. The first time he did something wrong, Mrs. Jules wrote his name on the blackboard under the word discipline. The second time he did something wrong, she put a check next to his name. And the third time he did something wrong, she circled his name. Todd reached into his desk and pulled out his workbook. He'd only just started on it when he felt someone tap him on the shoulder. It was Joy. What page are you on? Joy asked. Page 4, Todd whispered. I'm on page 11, said Joy. Todd didn't say anything. He didn't want to get into trouble. He just went back to work. 5 minutes later, Joy tapped him again. Todd ignored her, so Joy poked him in the back with her pencil. Todd pretended he didn't notice. Joy got up from her seat and sharpened her pencil. She came back and poked it in Todd's back. What page are you on? Page 5, Todd answered. Boy, are you dumb, said Joy. I'm on page 29. It isn't a race, Todd whispered. All right, so we just finished reading this page. Here's the next one. 5 minutes later, Joy pulled Todd's hair and didn't let go until he turned around. What page are you on? She demanded. Page 6, Todd answered as quietly as he could. I'm on page 200, Joy shouted. Todd was very angry. Will you please let me do my work and stop bothering me? Miss Jules heard him. Todd, what did I say about talking in class? Todd scratched his head. Mrs. Jules put a check next to Todd's name on the blackboard under the word discipline. Todd really tried to be good. He knew that if he talked one more time, Mrs. Jules would circle his name. Then he'd have to go home early at 12 o'clock on the kindergarten bus, just as he had the day before and the day before that. In fact, there hadn't been a day since Mrs. Jules took over the class that she didn't send Todd home early. She said she did it for his own good. The other children went home at 2 o'clock. Todd wasn't really bad. He just always got caught. He really wanted to stay past 12 o'clock. He wanted to find out what the class did from 12 to 2. But it didn't look as though this was going to be his day. It was only 10:30, and he had already had 2 strikes against him. He sealed his lips and went back to work. There was a knock on the door. Mrs. Jules opened it. 2 men stepped in wearing masks and holding guns. Give us all your money, they demanded. All I have is a nickel, said Mrs. Jules. I have a dime, said Mauricia. I have 13 cents, said Leslie. I have 4 cents, said Damien. What kind of bank is this? Asked one of the robbers. It's not a bank, it's a school, said Todd. Can't you read? No, said the robbers. Neither can I, said Todd. Do you mean we walked all the way up 30 flights of stairs for nothing? Asked the robber. Don't you have anything valuable? Todd's eyes lit up. We sure do, he said. We have knowledge. He grabbed Joy's workbook and gave it to the robbers. Knowledge is much more valuable than money. Now we're on the last page of the chapter. Thanks, kid, said one of the robbers. Maybe I'll give up being a criminal and become a scientist, said the other. They left the room without hurting anybody. Now I don't have a workbook, complained Joy. Miss Jules gave her a new one. Joy had to start all the way back at the beginning. Hey, Joy, what page are you on? Asked Todd. Page 1, Joy sighed. I'm on page 8, laughed Todd triumphantly. Miss Jules heard him. She circled his name. Todd had 3 strikes against him. At 12 o'clock, he left the room to go home early on the kindergarten bus. But this time when he left, he was like a star baseball player leaving the field. All the children stood up, clapped their hands, and whistled. Todd scratched his head. Well, he went home a hero. All right, chapter 6, BB. So, chapter 5 was all about Todd. First question was, why does Todd try to ignore the children in his class? And number 2, what happens after Mrs. Jules circled Todd's name on the board each day? Number 3, why do robbers come into the school? And then 4, have you ever felt like Todd? Explain. All right, so don't forget to answer those on this page right here. Okay, so we're on the second page of our questions. It says 519 at the top, which is actually, oh wait, sorry, wrong page. This one, 520, not 519. 519 is the one we did yesterday. Anyway, here we go. So, also don't forget to do the character card. Chapter 6, BB. We only have 2 questions for her. Number 1, how does Calvin help BB? And number 2, why does BB run out of the classroom crying? All right, so keep those questions in mind as we read. And don't forget, you can underline in the book so that you can find the answers better. Or quicker, sorry. Here we go. Chapter 6, BB. BB was a girl with short brown hair, a little BB nose, totally tiny toes, and big brown eyes. Her full name was BB Gunn. She was the fastest draw in Mrs. Jules' class. She could draw a cat in less than 45 seconds, a dog in less than 30, and a flower in less than 8 seconds. But of course, BB never drew just one dog, or one cat, or one flower. Art was from 12:30 to 1:30. Why, in that time, she could draw 50 cats, 100 flowers, 20 dogs, and several eggs or watermelons. It took her the same amount of time to draw a watermelon as an egg. Calvin sat next to BB. He didn't think he was very good at art. Why, it took him the whole period just to draw one airplane. So instead, he just helped BB. He was BB's assistant. As soon as BB would finish one masterpiece, Calvin would take it from her and set down a clean sheet of paper. Whenever her crayon ran low, Calvin was ready with a new crayon. That way, BB didn't have to waste any time. And in return, BB would draw 5 or 6 airplanes for Calvin. It was 12:30, time for art. BB was ready. On her desk was a sheet of yellow construction paper. In her hand was a green crayon. Calvin was ready. He held a stack of paper and a box of crayons. Ready, BB? Said Calvin. Ready, Calvin, said BB. Okay, said Mrs. Jules. Time for art. She had hardly finished her sentence when BB had already drawn a picture of a leaf. Calvin took it from her and put another piece of paper down. Red, called BB. Calvin handed BB a red crayon. Blue, called BB. He gave her a blue crayon. They were quite a pair. Their teamwork was remarkable. BB drew pictures as fast as Calvin could pick up the old paper and set down the new. A fish, an apple, 3 cherries, bing, bing, bing. At 1:30, Miss Jules announced, Okay, class, art is over. BB dropped her crayon and fell over on her desk. Calvin sighed and leaned back in his chair. He could hardly move. They had broken their old record. BB had drawn 378 pictures. They lay in a pile on Calvin's desk. Mrs. Jules walked by. Calvin, did you draw all these pictures? Calvin laughed. No, I can't draw. BB drew them all. Well, then, what did you draw? Asked Miss Jules. I didn't draw anything, said Calvin. Why not? Don't you like art? Asked Mrs. Jules. I love art, said Calvin. That's why I didn't draw anything. Mrs. Jules did not understand. It would have taken me the whole period just to draw one picture, said Calvin, and Bibi would only have been able to draw 100 pictures. But with the two of us working together, she was able to draw 378 pictures. That's a lot more art. Bibi and Calvin shook hands. No, said Miss Jules, that isn't how you measure art. It isn't how many pictures you have, but how good the pictures are. Why, a person could spend his whole life just drawing one picture of a cat. In that time, I'm sure Bibi could draw 1,000,000 cats. 2,000,000, said Bibi. Miss Jules continued, but if that one picture is better than each of Bibi's 2,000,000, then that person has produced more art than Bibi. Bibi looked as if she was going to cry. She picked up all the pictures from Calvin's desk and threw them in the garbage. Then she ran from the room. I thought her pictures were good, said Calvin. He reached into the garbage pail and took out a crumpled up picture of an airplane. Bibi walked outside into the playground. Louis, the art teacher, spotted her. Where are you going? He asked. I'm going home to draw a picture of a cat, said Bibi. Will you bring it to school and show it to me tomorrow? Louis asked. Tomorrow, laughed Bibi. By tomorrow I doubt I'll even be finished with one whisker. All right, so that was the end of that chapter. Very short. And here are questions again. Number 1, how does Calvin help Bibi? And then number 2, why does Bibi run out of the classroom crying? So on this page right here, you're going to answer the questions. And don't forget at the beginning of the story or beginning of this packet, you're going to draw the character card. Okay? So what lesson did Bibi learn? We'll talk about that when we get to our Google Meet. All right, so I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you later.